Hey guys, Labby Dragon here. You may be wondering, why am I filming in, obviously, my kitchen? And that is because I have been living here for like 3 months and my craft room is still garbage. Absolute garbage. But anyway, today we are making a fez, because I have to have a fez for an act, and so why not bring you along for the glorious bitchin' journey of just making a little fez. So what you're gonna need an iron. Mine is already set up and plugged in my ironing corner of completely dangerous. Yes. We might do some hand sewing. So you are gonna want some thread in a color that is going to blend in with the felt you're gonna need for this hat. I'm doing the traditional red. I am doing an Aladdin act, and it seemed like a fez would go nicely with that. And you are also gonna need, this is the top piece of a like paper top hat pattern that I did in a previous video, actually. So links to the pattern in the description-y thing, wherever those end up being on whatever platform anymore. You're gonna need that. You're gonna need Heat and Bond. That is the brand. Heat and Bond or a fusible webbing. I use Heat and Bond. It works nicely for me. And the last thing you are gonna need, this is called buckram. This specific, I believe, is actually called unicorn buckram, but unicorn buckram, hat buckram. You can get this at Joann's fairly cheap for, you would need less than half a yard, really. Like a quarter of a yard. But I always buy a yard at a time because I also use this material to make pasties and lots of other goodies. Pasties, tiny hats, anything, really. Alright, so there is that, and that is it for my face being on camera in this intro. And we're gonna move to seeing my hands and doing stuff, because I can't get my face and hands in the same shot. So two things I did forget to mention in my intro, actually. You will need a pencil and also the scissors that you cut paper with, because we should all have separate paper and fabric scissors. Alright, so your first step is going to be to take your template and you're just going to trace out onto the paper side of your Heat and Bond. And sometimes you fail at tracing. You just draw all over your template instead, because that happens. It totally happens. Right. Fun fact about me, I prefer mechanical pencils, and I will only write with a 0.5mm mechanical pencil because everything else is too damn big. But I prefer mechanical pencils because I can never keep a regular pencil sharp enough. Because I hate like having, when your pencil's getting like really blunt and you don't have a sharpener and like your letters just start getting wider and wider, and I just don't like it. I have issues with that. That would be the sound of my cat playing with her toy mouse in the background there. if you can even hear that. Half the time I mention something that I think can be heard on camera, and it just can't actually even be heard. Like, hopefully, if at any point my neighbors decide to have a conversation on the porch, hopefully we don't hear them. 'Cause I probably will, even if you don't. So, template all traced out, and then, surprise, surprise, you just cut it out. Meh. And actually, this pattern has a tab, which is really useful if you're hot gluing, which is an option with this project as well, and not just the paper version. But I'm actually gonna sew, so I am actually gonna cut into a circle right around that tab. And cut that tab right off. It's much easier to do that at this point instead of when you're trying to trace stuff out. You just follow the lines and then cut it out later. Okay, and when you're all cut out, you are ready to iron this onto your little piece of felt. Okay, so here we are at my highly questionable ironing station. As you can see, I'm working with like a scrap of felt that like just fits the project. So we've got to get this just so here. Okay, now heat and bond does come with instructions, but I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through what it is in case sometimes the instructions get thrown out before like the heat and bond gets handed to you if you buy by the yard. If you're doing just like one little project and you're never gonna use it again, like it comes in like individual packages of a yard, but by the yard is in the long run cheaper. Especially if you just need to leave it lying around so that if you feel like making 12 sets of pasties one day you can. There's that. So with heat and bond, what you do is you put the iron down for about 10 seconds and you don't wiggle this around. You pick it up and set it down. I actually was not counting there. Alright. And don't like slap your hand down on it because obviously it's hot, but kind of make sure you've got all the glue activated and secured. And I do. So the next step is I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out, and I will then hi kitty. So you're gonna cut this out, and then we'll go on to the next step of ironing this onto the buckram, which is basically the same, but we'll go through it on camera just to see it again. Okay, here we are at the ironing onto the buckram stage. As you can see, a buckram, when it comes off of the bolt, can very much keep that fold from the bolt and be really just unruly and mean, but you beat it into submission and it does beautiful things for you. So your paper's still on. You're going to remove the paper backing on the heat and bond. Expose all that beautiful shiny glue. You're gonna pick your space on your buckram. Trying to have the best usage of space. And then, very carefully, to not burn the crap out of your fingers, you are gonna repeat your process of holding down for 10 seconds. Or more if the glue is just not wanting to do it through the felt. The felt is a little thicker than most things I heat and bond down. You just kind of go carefully. Or maybe I have led myself into disaster. Now I've done this. This takes a little longer. And after a few minutes of that, because felt is quite a lot thicker than cotton, which heat and bond is mostly used on just thin quilting cotton, turn off your iron, unplug it, make sure you do that, because I will always forget. So that reminder is for people like me. And then go ahead and cut out your little fez. So if you intend to hot glue this project, which no judgment here, hand sewing is a bitch that a lot of people just do not want to deal with. This is where having left on the tab would be helpful. You just start gluing around like that, and then around from the other side until it overlaps. Something like that. And it will be a nice little fez hat. For those of us who have decided to go the hand sewing route, it's gonna take longer. And this is actually where a curved needle would be awesome. I don't have any curved needles because I'm a crazy person who just doesn't have all the things, even though you would think being crazy I would have all the things. I don't. Get some knots in the end of that string. Cut off that tail. Receive Facebook messages of some sort, or emails, whatever that ding was. I think it was my email ding. And with basically the same principle as what you would do if you were gluing it. Principle, not principle, you know, whatever. Language. You're just gonna start, I don't know if you can see this too well. Just gonna start whip stitching along the outside. I believe I'm using the right term. If I ever say something and it doesn't make sense, just realize that sometimes I have not so smart days. Yeah, I'm just going in through the top and then out. And I'm going to pull out any of my hair that seems to be stuck in the stitches. Long hair problems, or even just people who shed hair a lot problems. As you can see, you can actually see that stitching. This thread is a little bit dark for this project. To be honest, I am going to be on stage with this and no one is going to see this. Not even for a second. Like, when you're on stage, you can get away with a lot of little discrepancies. Like, I have a pink and blue costume, and I didn't want to try to match the pink and blue threads and, like, stop in between stitches where my pinks and blues met up on my costume. So I used white thread, and nobody notices. Frankly, if I were just wearing it around like a convention or something, no one would notice that either, to be real about it, because it's such a little detail and they would have to be up in my snoot to even notice it at all. So you really, especially with thread colors, thread is so small. You have a lot of leeway, so you don't need to stress too hard about exact matches and oh my god, it's not right, blah blah blah. I will admit sometimes I still freak out about stuff like that, even though, you know I don't need to. I'm like, nobody is gonna notice except for me, and I care. So frequently that ends up being the dealio if I know about it, and I will be freaking out about it. I just worry about it and do it that way. But actually find hand sewing like this pretty cathartic. I don't like to do huge projects. I like to be able to be done in like 30 minutes to a couple of hours. But like small hand sewing projects, I really enjoy. I think I did, we did a food themed show, which is what that pink and blue costume I was talking about was for. But I also made a bunch of felt food to sell at the show, which didn't sell very well. Things don't, merch tables just don't do that great at shows in our town anyway. I don't know if there are towns where people are like really raring to buy stuff from burlesque dancers, but it is not this town. Although we did a benefit for Luby Bat Conservancy, or Conservatory, and we made some like adorable like bat ears and bat pasties, like Batman shaped bat pasties and bat face shaped bat pasties, and that actually sold really well. But that was the first and so far only time we've actually turned some good, not profit, because all of us got together that had made any merch and agreed that like the profit from what we had made, we wanted to go to the bats. So we took material costs, but anything that would have been like in our pockets, we gave to the bats. So I think that's part of why that did better. It was like, oh, and it's for a good cause. So it wasn't just, you know, feeding burlesque dancers and making sure they can still buy rhinestones in the morning is not always enough of a motivator. And because of the way this hat is in two separate bits here, I don't actually want to keep going, I don't think. No, actually I will. Let's line them up. I think it looks like it'll work out. If it doesn't, I'll pull my stitches out and figure it out. I'm a little bit afraid if I just meet the edges now, or if I just start from the other end, the edges won't meet. Which would be a tragedy. Alright, yeah. I'm gonna join these edges and see what happens. Like I said, I can rip these stitches out and figure something else out if need be. Oops. Caught the dang desk drawer handle. This is not the first time I've had to just force a hat to do what I wanted it to do. It's nice having careers that dovetail. So I work in theater when I'm not doing burlesque, which is, you know, most of the time. So theater is actually my day job. Although, to be honest, it's my day job, my night job, my weekend job, my all-the-time job. And I actually do not always get to do specifically theater-related stuff. I am in artist relations, but usually we just call me hospitality because I take care of making sure that anything that's been asked for in performer dressing rooms, as far as, well, including like pretty much anything, but especially food. Like when we have orchestras, sometimes we'll have foreign orchestras, and they'll have a big star that's directing them or playing with them, and they'll want like good espresso for just them in their dressing room. And it is my job to get a coffee maker and espresso into that dressing room, and probably some nice cups. And as well as, so when like our crews have breaks and stuff, especially on like, I mean, for any show that's, we have presented in rentals, so we have the ones where we contracted them, and then there are people who contract our space. But the people that we seek out and we present, we always provide for their crew, their performers, and our crew, at the very least, coffee, tea, water, soda. So my job is, about 90% of my job is actually making coffee in the morning, and then again in the middle of the day if needed, or whenever needed, and making sure that kettles are running hot still and all of that jazz. And sorry, I think I may have messed this up. Who knows? I will figure it out. But yeah, so, you know, I make the coffee, and generally am in charge of making sure that our artists get lunch and or dinner, as, you know, according to their contracts. You know, usually with a big orchestra, they actually usually roll in on their bus like a couple hours before curtain, and we usually have sandwiches, but sometimes there's catering from whatever, because they usually ask for sandwiches because it's easy. Like make your own sandwich platters or pre-made sandwich platters, whichever. It's actually cheaper when we get them just pre-made sandwiches. But or at least easier on my life, and not significantly different in price. But yeah, so we make sure we have that set out so that they can roll in and eat something as they're getting dressed, getting their instrument out, getting their cases set wherever we're putting their cases on that show, and then usually running out for a sound check. But with smaller shows, like we have like a dance show with like 5 performers in it. Usually, instead of like pre-preparing something, I'll bring them menus of like whatever's local or whatever they're feeling like eating food-wise, and we actually put in an order and I go out and get it from whatever restaurant they pick. We have a Jamaican restaurant in our town, and I have not eaten there, but every time we mention that we have a Jamaican restaurant, artists will be like, oh, I've never had that, or oh, I haven't had Jamaican in a really long time, like, let's have Jamaican. So we actually do a lot of business with them. So I actually have I have a great rapport with them, and I have a great rapport with the Publix that's right next to where I work, because that's where I'm allowed to shop for things. We have a contract, like the university has a contract, and that's where we buy when we need to buy grocery type stuff. But yeah, so they see me all the time, and my purchases always have to be tax exempt because we're a college, and they can sometimes turn around a day that is just absolutely off to cuckoo bananas time. I am very thankful for that particular Publix crew. From the managers to the cashiers to the people who were cashiers when I started my job and are now like working their way up management. It's great. It's great to see that happening. Because I imagine that's probably what they want if that's what they're doing. So, you know, hopefully, I don't know. I don't ask. It's hard to feel comfortable asking, like, so do you actually like this job? Like, are you training to manage because you want to manage at Publix, or are you training to manage because you want more money? And both is a good answer. In fact, I am mostly in my current department because I wanted to make more money, and now I do. I finally got halfway. I got halfway between where I was, which was sort of a slap in the face salary for how much work I do, and where I want to be. But I'm sort of halfway in between there now, so it's not too bad. Hopefully, if I stay with them within the next year, I'll be bumped up that extra little bit, because goodness knows, affording to live is actually quite difficult. Living is expensive. I actually don't know if I'm even gonna post all of this, because this isn't even really part of the tutorial. This is just me sewing, and I don't know. If I do post this, you guys let me know. Like, I know sometimes I put in like just whole vlogs, and I mean, that's why I call a lot of these like craft vlogs and not tutorials, even though I definitely try to make it so that you can follow along and that you could be making what I'm making if you wanted to. I'm hoping when I embark finally on my big massive pasty tutorial, which will include multi-parts and all kinds of jibber jabber about pasties, I'm hoping I can keep that one like a little bit more on track and not so chitter chatty about my life and whatnot. So that can be used as like a resource that you can go back and forth in. Okay, so that was the last stitch around. I am gonna now poke back through, but just the top of that. Try to get my fingers in there without ruining everything. I don't know, it's an Aladdin act, and it's not, you know, Prince Ali Aladdin, it's just basic Aladdin. So, honestly, if this looks a little wonky, maybe it will actually be fitting. That is probably the bat signal. And by the bat signal, I mean, you know what? I think actually, because I can't get a knot in there like an idiot, I'm actually just gonna glue this string to the side. Like, I'm gonna cut it off pretty long and just glue this string inside here, because it's not like anyone's gonna see inside of this. I'm actually gonna try to rig this to attach to a wig with some bobby pins or something, and that will be it. It's gonna stay in the wig the whole time. Hopefully, you know, unless some sort of disaster happens. But I will come back and show you how I'm gonna stitch up this edge in a little bit. Okay, so here we are on the side seam, much like when we went around the top, which I did all funny, so it's gonna be a little weird. I accept it though. I accept you, weird Fez. So you're gonna go up from the inside to hide your knot again. I'm actually just gonna go, sorry, I don't think you can see this very well. Just gonna go back and forth. Kind of try to pull that tight so there's not too much of a gap. And these are actually kind of, I'm making this up as I'm going, so these are kind of weird crisscrossy stitches. Let's see if we can do a stitch that doesn't suck. So the goal is to get this to lay kind of flat and not puckered. You just want them to meet up together. Of course, I am trying to do this so that you can kind of see it. I'm not 100% sure how well the video will turn out of this. And this is actually totally against my natural sewing pattern, because I'm trying to turn this away from me rather than towards me. But I want to do a little bit of this where you can hopefully kind of figure out what I'm doing here. I was doing some weird crisscrossy stitches, and they may have actually been working out better for me, less visible. Just down, back through the other side. And I am gonna be uneven once I hit the bottom, but to be honest, I'm putting this on a curly wig, so I don't really care. Again, another one of those little miracles of between being on stage and having it hiding in a wig anyway. No one's gonna notice that. No one at all. I mean, one of you will know it was there. I will know it was there. But, you know, no one else is gonna notice. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up in a more natural manner and get back to you. Alright, and here we are with a full hat. I got a little bit of a pucker in my side seam, but I may be able to fix that in the implementation of my securing device. What I'm planning to do is maybe poke a couple holes down at the very bottom and shove some bobby pins through them and bobby pin it straight into the wig that I'm intending for this to go on. But otherwise, here is your little handmade fez, and it may be lumpy and not perfect, but it's yours. Or maybe yours turned out perfectly because maybe you did this better than me. Maybe you learned from a few of the mistakes I made. Maybe you're just better, which seems completely reasonable. But yeah, there it is. A little hat. So I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys what I did to this hat to affix it. So I made these, I don't know if you can see, there. I made two little slits with an X-Acto blade. This ribbon is the remnant of, I attempted to attach my alligator clips to the ribbon and then into my hair, but the hat flopped around a little bit on me and I didn't like it, and that's when I made the little holes, which you can see better now, I think. And then you just can put the alligator clips through, and it's actually a very, very tight fit, so it takes a second. And then you can just, if I can adjust this up towards my face a little bit, just show you. You could just take the clips and squish into your hair. And I was wearing a curly wig, because this, between the last recording and this recording, I have actually performed the act for which this was made. Yay! Sorry, I'm being a little bit silly here apparently. But that's actually, my hair is crinkly because I braid my hair. I do 2 braids and wrap it around my head to get all this luscious hair into a wig. So I haven't washed it yet. Whoops. But yeah, you just clip in. And if you were to use, to paint these clips so they weren't so bright silver, you could use them in flat hair, like my natural hair, pretty well. And actually, well, my hair's really flat, so it's gonna bobble a little because it's not actually, it doesn't hold as well. Even these alligator clips don't hold as well in my hair as they do in other types of hair. Like, hopefully you have some hair with some body to it. My hair does not have. It's like, if I put an alligator clip in my hair, it's like, okay, that's alright. But if there's anything weighing on it, like if this clip is a little bit too heavy, like this This doesn't happen in other types of hair, not that cleanly anyway, not without being like, ah, I'm pulling my hair. But, so it held really, really nicely in the curly wig that I was wearing. But yeah, and this, I ended up also, as a backup if I needed to, you can do one alligator clip and then a couple of bobby pins and then the other alligator clip, and that seemed to work pretty well as well. But then I also discovered just the 2 alligator clips worked pretty well on their own once I fidgeted with it to get it right. I don't know. But so that's what I did. There are a few other things you could do, and if you had a wig, if this is like for a cosplay and that wig is only ever going to be used for that cosplay, you could actually just sew this hat into your wig. It'll be a bitch to get out without messing something up, so I would only sew things into a wig you know you're not going to use for anything else, or you've accepted that you won't be able to use it for anything else. But that's your other option. Alright, so that's actually it. You have a hat, you have a way to put it onto your head, although, third option, elastic. You could do a little elastic, a little clear elastic would go into your hair underneath and disappear quite nicely. So, last minute, like, oh yeah, you could do that. But yeah, unless I suddenly think of yet another thing to say, this is the end of this video. Thank you for making stuff with me, and I hope to be back again soon to make more things with you, and hopefully, I don't know, hopefully we'll get to do this a lot, eventually, when I can get my shit together. Alright, bye guys!